Alex, this is a recipe book.
Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council. I declare it open on Tuesday the 24th of September at 2:01 p.m.
The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises the Palawa people's continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Present today, all councillors are present. Agenda item 1.2 is there are no apologies or leave of absence. In attendance, we have the Director Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Peter Porch, who is also Acting General Manager, the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Alex Woodward, Senior Planner, Mr. James Bonner, and Council Officers, Ms. Hazelwood and Mrs. Kerr. Agenda item 1.4 is late reports. Acting General Manager, do you have anything? Nothing? Thank you, Mr. Porch. 1.5 is declaration of interest or conflict. As Mayor, I request elected members to indicate whether they have 1, any interest personally or by a close associate as defined in section 49 of Local Government Act 1993, or 2, any conflict as described in the Model Code of Conduct for Councillors in any item included in the agenda. Councillor McQueenie.
Now just declare an interest in 8.5 Triabunga Tivoli Theatre. I'm a member of the group Olive Chamber.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other declarations of interest?
Just to ask you, Mayor, if I may, that does cover the confidential meeting as well.
Councillor Churchill, Mr. Porch did provide me with some information that the fact that the closed session is part of this meeting, albeit it's closed to the public, this declaration would apply to both meetings.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. No other conflicts of interest to be declared? Thank you. We'll move on.
Madam Mayor, before you go on, not a point of order, but I make a suggestion that item 2, it says included in the agenda. It should perhaps say for clarity, this agenda and the closed confidential meeting agenda, to make it clear so people don't have to ask the question in the future.
Thank you, Councillor. The point taken. I'm sure officers will note that for future agendas. Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 2.1 is the ordinary meeting of Council, the 27th of August 2024. There is a recommendation on page 6. Councillor Woods,
Thank you. I'll move that minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 27th of August 2024 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Simons, thank you.
Just once again, if I can just ask, in that last meeting, it was clearly stated that the conflict of interest did not apply to the confidential part of that meeting. I just wanted that noted, please, in the minutes.
Certainly, thank you. There's nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously, thank you. Agenda item 2.2 is the date and purpose of workshop held. There is a recommendation on page 7. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Simons.
I'll move that council notes the information.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Questions or comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 2 is the audit panel minutes, Tuesday the 4th of June. There is a recommendation on page 8. Councillor Churchill, will you read?
It's actually on page 9, I think. Sorry. I move the council receives and notes the attached minutes of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council audit panel meeting held on the 4th of June 2024.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Young, thank you. Questions or comments in relation to the audit panel meeting? Councillor McQueenie.
Just a quick question, thank you, Mayor. When one looks at the minutes that were included, there are items that come up in the audit and risk committee that don't seem to come to councillors, particularly around the risk side of things. So I'm just wondering if that can be managed so that we're as aware as people in that committee of what the risks are to this organisation.
Councillor Churchill and Brendan, you're both on the audit panel, aren't you? So my memory serves me correctly that when things have happened in the past that does need to come to this council, it's been sent through from the chair of the panel, or there's been kind of sent, I think.
It hasn't happened on a lot of
It hasn't
occasions.
happened many times, but I
No,
think it
yeah.
has happened, it's been referred.
Yes, but I think our risk register is also being looked at the moment too. I think that was mentioned in the last panel meeting. That is being looked at.
So, and Mr. Porch?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, certainly it's noted that the audit committee's asked for a report back to them on the work of WLF. I think there's not, from memory, who have done some work, and yes, there is still some work going on in that space, but we have noted that the audit committee has recommended that a report on that from the council.
Thank you. Councillor McLeany, is that, would that?
Yeah, I guess if there's work being done on the risk, then that's great,
Yes.
because the bit where the general manager does an update on emerging risks,
Yeah.
I think we should equally.
Thank you. In relation to agenda item 2.3, there's nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 2.4 is the, again, audit panel minutes, Tuesday the 3rd of September. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I'll move that council receives and notes the attached minutes of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council Audit Panel meeting held on the 3rd of September 2024.
Seconded, Councillor Churchill. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 3.1 is public question time. Responses to previous questions without notice was taken on notice on the 27th of August. There is a response from the acting general manager there in the agenda, as we said it would be. Mr. Porcher, is there anything else that needs to be added to that response, or?
Madam Mayor, I think the responses addresses the two items that
Two questions.
Mr. Peterson's asked, so I think that's fine.
Thank you.
Just through the mayor.
Councillor Gregson?
Just refer to the acting general manager. Could you just read that out, please? Because people viewing this on YouTube may not know what the response.
Councillor Gregson, they're generally not read out because whilst this is only a few lines, sometimes the responses are quite long. That they have been known to be several paragraphs. So they're generally not read out. The response is available on the council website in the minutes that's there. I'm happy to have Mr. Porch read it in this instance, but just be aware that it may not always be possible because of the length of them.
So, thank you, Mayor. So the questions related to the same thing. One was about the current balance of contributions, and the other was whether council had a formal, comprehensive documented open space strategy, and whether decisions were made through that or on an ad hoc basis. So the responses to that are: the current balance from open space contributions is $1,038,453. The second part of that question: council currently does not have an open space strategy. However, this will be developed during this financial year. The expenditure of funds needs to be conducted in accordance with public open space contributions policy. This requires careful consideration by council and endorsement through the budget development and approval process. This is informed by existing approved strategies and open space master plans and the asset management system. All these documents will be included in or inform the open space strategy.
Thank you, Mr. George. Agenda item 3.2, questions on notice. I don't believe we have any questions on notice. Questions without notice at 3.3? Public questions without notice?
None.
No, thank you. Agenda item 4 is Planning Authority. There is currently no nil reports in the Planning Authority. Agenda item 5 is the financial reports for August 2024. There is a recommendation on page 15. Deputy Mayor?
I'll move that council receives and notes the financial reports as attached to this report for the period ended August 2024.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor McQueenie, thank you. Questions or comments in relation to financial reports? No questions or comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Agenda item 6 is the section 24 committee minutes of the marine infrastructure meeting held on the 20th of August. There is a recommendation on page 16. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. I'll move that the minutes of the Marine Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, 20th of August, 2024 be received and noted.
Thank you. Is the second? Councillor Edwards, thank you. Councillor Woods, you are the chair of this meeting. Any
I'd
comments?
just like to report to council that this is running very smoothly. It's a very positive and active committee, and continues to do good things.
Thank you. Questions or comments, Councillor Gregson and Councillor Edwards?
It's just through the mayor. Other business, point 5. S. Thompson inquired about potential upgrades for the Marara Island Gateway. Is the Marara Island Gateway, is that the former tourist bureau on the foreshore at Tribunna at all? What is the tourist Marara Island Gateway? What is that?
So if I may, Meg?
Yes.
So it's really to do with whether not necessarily council, but what's going to be done to upgrade the area with regards to the Marara Gateway. But yes, it is down there where the old information centre is.
Mr. Hodge, can you add anything to Councillor Gregson's question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Visitor Information Centre, which it was, is a part of. If we're talking about the gateway to Maria, I guess is a broader term and encapsulates a range of initiatives that we might see in the future regarding the marina itself and how that functions and how people come into that area and then across to Maria Island. So it's encompassing a number of things.
Councillor Edwards.
I was just going to, through you, Madam Mayor, ask the acting GM. In Mr. Herman's report, he said we're currently awaiting approval from Parks and Wildlife over the Saltworks jetty. It's not any miraculous happened and we've received approval.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have we have had some consultation with them. We've arranged to visit site with Mast and Parks to review the current proposed plan. Parks did have something from Mast within the last fortnight. We're going to site to have a look at that and confirm that the current plan, which was upgraded after consultation with community there, is still achievable for council and Parks with the range of issues that are there with heritage and other associated issues.
Yep.
So yes, a little bit of movement there, but we've got a little way to go.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments in relation to marine infrastructure? Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 6.2 is the Tasmania Seafarers Memorial Committee minutes, the 3rd of June 2024. There is a recommendation on page 18. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. I move that the minutes of the Tasmanian Seafarers Memorial Committee held on the 3rd of June 2024 be received and noted.
Seconder. Councillor McQueenie. Questions or comments in relation to the Seafarers Memorial Committee? Councillor McQueenie.
Oh, just to flag that memorial service is coming up next month.
Yes, it is.
And that you may have seen flyers already go out across Orford and Tribunna, and hopefully they're up in Swansea too, because it's a statewide responsibility that Tribunna has around this, so it's not just this area.
Thank you. Councillor Wood?
If I may, so it's on page 18 clearly, under review of the day learnings. The committee decided that there will be one more year of the double service, Seafarers Memorial Blessing of the Fleet, and moving forward, only the Blessing of the Fleet will continue. Can somebody explain to me how this will?
Councillor Edwards, as the chair of the committee, can you offer any?
I think that there was some confusion with the governor who came 2 years in a row, and then it threw things out of balance a little bit, and I think that was the basis of the question. So they decided this year we'd have the service, no governor. Next year, is my understanding, we'll go back to asking the governor again and having the extended service.
So, am I?
Yes.
Yep.
So one more year of the double service, that's this year.
Yep.
And then next year it's just the blessing of the fleet.
Yeah, and then
The next year after that will be the
we'll
double service.
in discussion we'll go back to the double service, because I don't think there's certainly not a move to reduce the service. If anything, we're trying to promote it and build it.
And another question, if I may, Mayor, the committee will not be asking the Tribunal School Association to do the morning tea again this year. Can I ask the reason why? Please.
Yeah, there was a few hiccups last year with people not being informed correctly of where they were supposed to be as far as the morning tea happened, and it was it was dumped on a couple of people very late who did a tremendous job in salvaging what they could. So it was decided that it would probably be a little easier if that was taken away, and also it's a money saving thing, and so that's why that happened.
Yep.
So now people are going to be directed to go down to clean the coffee.
Madam Mayor, through you to the chair, Councillor Edwards. Councillor, could you please ensure that in future the surname of the governor is correct? Because a number of times the wrong surname has been wrongly used.
Okay,
Once the records are changed, I'm sure that there won't be another mistake.
lovely work.
Councillor Gregson?
Through them, yeah. Councillor Woods just asked my two questions. But
Well, withdraw it then, Councillor.
no, but I just have something to add. This a bit of a confusion about the morning tea. Has that been authorised by the CWI at Swansea to do that?
No,
I haven't.
No.
Just noticed there as an example.
no, well, no, it hasn't. No, they haven't been authorised to do that. Not to my knowledge, anyway.
Oh, very
Thank you.
much to my chagrin. Okay.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put the motion of those in favour. Those against, carried unanimously. Agenda item 7 is the information reports. The first one is 7.1, the Director of Works and Infrastructure report. There is a recommendation on page 20. Councillor Young, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move the council notes the information in this very detailed and useful report.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Churchill, thank you. Any questions or comments for report? Councillor Woods
Thank
and
you.
Councillor Churchill.
Thank you. On page 23, under general, implementation of Chronicle Cemetery Management Software commenced. This action provides input for resolving the cemetery layout and automating cemetery booking processes to an online portal. I just want to say that I was asked with regards to a plot in the Tribunal Cemetery, and I would just wanted to acknowledge and thank the staff for the people that asked about it. We're very happy with the response and the way that the council has managed their queries. So I just want that on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge the work of the Dolphin Sands Community Association for the achievement of that grant of $125,000 to be matched by council with another $125,000, and that council is also responsible for the operational costs of that. So the combined effort there has allowed that item to be hopefully purchased soon, probably underway. And I particularly just wanted to note the work of Mr. Steve Barrett in particular, who led that application from DSCA. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, did I see you with your?
Yep, you did.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was just two quick inquiries. One is one birth holder relinquishing their birth. And there's an opportunity for somebody else to come in. Has somebody else come in, or is that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not entirely up to date now. That was a few weeks ago. We had a bit of movement there, but yes, we had one who was ready to come in straight away, and we were able to relet that birth. And from there, it was a matter of just contacting some others. So
Nice.
I have every confidence the birth is let by now.
And the Mega Toy climbing equipment, is that the big climbing tower thing? That's gone, is it?
That's correct. It's not gone. It's there, but it's barricaded off. So the links in the chains, you can't see them because they're covered to protect fingers. The inspection that we've had, the annual inspection by a third-party provider, which we have to do, picked up that there was significant wear in those and potential for those to break. So that and a number of other items on that particular equipment mean it's at the end of its useful life, and where we have funds in the Capital Works program for renewal of playground infrastructure, and that's one that we see.
With something similar, because that has been extremely popular. That my kids have fallen from the top of it many a time.
Yes, yes, through you, Madam Mayor, yes, and I understand that, in fact, I installed a 6-metre one of those at a playground, and was raked over the coals at one stage because you couldn't put people up there without harnesses and things. We can allow children to go up there, and the legislation is different, but yes, it's an interesting.
No, good. That's good.
Deputy Mayor Simons, then Councillor Gregson, then Councillor McQueenie.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to the General Manager, Mr. Porch, and just further to Councillor Woods' about the online cemetery management. Do we still have a front-facing person that can deal with those inquiries? It wouldn't be something some people would be able to navigate their way through online, I suspect. Do we provide some help in that space?
Certainly through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there will still be people about who. I mean, we've got to feed that information in from the background, and we'll always be able to. But even from our own staff's point of view, to be able to we would use that portal internally to then check those records and be able to provide advice to people who have questions about it. So yes.
Excellent.
Councillor Gregson.
Through the Mayor, I will direct my question to the Acting General Manager. I've just got a couple of items. Just Reston's Road, whereabouts is that exactly, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, what page are we on?
On page 20, under roads, bridges, footpaths and curves, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop point 4.
Bresnahan's Road.
Yep.
Is
M Road.
which probably doesn't help people, I have
No,
to
it
say, in road.
It would
Certainly when, as Councillor Gregson has on a number of occasions endeavoured to get a location for these roads, M probably doesn't help. So Bresnahan's Road is towards Little Swanport, in that vicinity, on the inland side of the road.
On the left-hand side.
Councillor Gregson, are you familiar with M Road?
Yes, I am.
It's the beginning of M Road.
Oh, right, good. And the and just a couple other, but I'll get back to under parks, playgrounds, reserves, walking tracks and cemeteries on page 21. Last up point there, developing options for replacement of Duck Park Swansea walking bridge nearing end of useful life. have you had any quotes or you envisage what the cost would be and what would the construction be, please? With regard to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are at the very start of that journey, and we've made inquiries with one provider who's declined to provide any kind of a budget for that. And yes, there are certainly options of what to do with it, whether to, you know, a full aluminium structure that might span, or a single span or something like that. But, the advice is that the supports through the centre of the pond there at the moment are not going to be good for the long term. So it will be most likely a full replacement.
And it possibly would be an aluminium or a steel structure instead of a wooden one.
Potentially.
Yeah.
We'll have a look at, again, you look at the life cycle, what's the, you know, how many years do you get out for your money at the end of the day, and we'll be looking to get best value for the community.
And just a couple of, I assume that gatehouse under buildings and marine infrastructure, gatehouse is referring to the gatehouse here at Tribunna. And the other one was Naylor Avenue. Whereabouts is that, please? Bishop, right. I'll leave that at that.
Councillor McQueenie.
Yes, regarding, through you, Mayor, to acting manager, the playground replenishment or renewal that you're talking about, do we ensure too that accessible equipment is considered in that as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, certainly accessible equipment is something we need to consider, and depending on the type,
Yeah.
and if we're replacing like for like, there may not be accessible equipment that would meet every need.
Okay.
But then there is some accessible equipment that is particularly for people with access difficulties.
Yeah.
So in the long term, we'd be looking to provide equipment that is more for those who have access difficulties, and that combination of things that for all abilities at the end of the day, there's something for everybody in a sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's nothing further from councillors,
Before it's quick, Madam Mayor,
sorry, councillor Young.
I didn't speak to the motion, but I was very reassured that in dealing with cemeteries, there's an automatic process to a portal. I was hoping it'd be to the next life, seeing that I'm the oldest member on council and probably might be seeking some spot of ease of access through this report. Thank you.
I think that was in the next level of expenditure, councillor.
You're selling indulgences.
You might be making a comeback there, Robert.
So, councillor, nothing further from councillors? Okay, I do have a question because I've been trying to figure this out ever since I got the agenda. On page 23, 24/25 Bluff Court Spring Bait. What is a KC installation, please, Mr. Ford?
Madam Mayor, a very good question. That is curb and channel.
Oh,
What
you
is
know
it?
what? It's simple when you know the answer, isn't it?
Yes, I could have explained
Thank
it
you.
better.
What was that?
I simply could not, perhaps if it had an ampersand sign or something in the middle, I might have got it, but
I had the same issue but worked it out in the end.
yes. Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.2 is the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Woodward's report. There is a recommendation on page 26. Councillor Edwards.
Recommend that the council receives and notes the report on the activities of the Planning and Development Directorate.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Seconder, Councillor Gregson. Thank you. Questions or comments, Councillor Edwards? No, nothing. Any questions or comments from Mr. Woodward? Councillor Gregson.
On page 24, at the bottom, school immunisations, is that a council or a health department issue?
I would defer to Mr. Woodward for that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yes. Mr. Woodward, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. So the school immunisation is essentially it's a requirement that's under the Public Health Act that council undertakes that. So we engage some nurse immunisers or doctors to undertake that process, but the vaccines are funded through the Department of Health, and we receive some money to go towards that per vaccine provided.
And just through there, the nurses, do we pay for the nurses or are the nurses paid by the health department?
Through you, Mayor, council pays.
And I see, Pelican Park, whereabouts is Pelican Park, please?
Tribunal?
Is it?
Tribunal.
And just coming down on page 25, it's here, council provided delegation to the general manager to approve an application with or without conditions where no more than two representations are lodged against an application. A report on these approvals is provided. Now, I was just wondering, does that pertain to a DA that doesn't require a permit, or does it also envelop where a discretionary trigger as well?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Woodward, it applies to all DAs, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, it applies to all DAs.
So hypothetically, in that case, if there was a discretionary trigger and it required performance criteria, if less than two representations or no more than two representations, so if there's only one or two representations, that will go through without even trigger the performance criteria based on the number of representations. Is that
Officers would. Mr. Woodward, you'd like to add a bit more to this, because my understanding is that in some circumstances you would probably still bring the GA to the council meeting. I've got that right, haven't I?
Through you, Mayor, yes, correct. If there's a development application that we felt was contentious or important, that the council make the decision. We also bring some refusals and the like. But if a development application is advertised and it's discretionary, it will get assessed by the planning officer, and they'll make a judgment, and they have delegation to provide approval. However, if there's two or more, or three, sorry, they are brought to council.
Thank you. And just the third one, still on page 25, property and special projects. Staff have continued to work with the Department of Natural Resources and Environment to amend the leases for the Swansea Courthouse project and the Bicheno Hall. All commercial leases have now been finalised, are in place. Could someone explain or expand on that, please?
Through you, Mayor. So the Swansea Courthouse and the Bicheno Hall are on land owned by the Crown. So effectively, council has a lease with the Crown for those properties, and those leases were quite old and outdated and didn't allow certain activities or subleasing. So to enable some works with Swansea Courthouse, as far as the RSL, there was some discussions around that, about them renting some space out there, along with the Bicheno Hall, which is used, the site is used by the library. So enable us to sublet that to the Crown, we had to amend the leases.
Mr. Woodward, could I just follow on from Councillor Gregson's question about the Swansea Courthouse? I understand that the RSL sublease is not going to happen now because of the delays in getting the new lease through Crown Land Services. That's accurate, isn't it?
Through you, Mayor, that is my understanding at this stage.
It is a disappointing outcome, but one that council had no control over, so thank you.
Madam Mayor, was that delay at Parks?
Yes, it was delayed. It was delayed through the government processes of bringing.
At Parks?
Sorry,
At the
Crown
Parks and
Land,
Wildlife?
Crown Land, I believe, councillor. It was the
Administered
issue.
by Parks, or is it another section? I asked the question.
Crown Land Services. Crown Land Services.
Under whose ministerial control is that?
I'm not sure.
Through you, Mayor, so it's property services, which is effectively through the Parks and Wildlife
And
Service, but it's administered, I think, the Minister for the Environment, which
natural, yes, it's NRE, comes from
NRE,
NRE, the
yeah.
Natural Resources and Environment.
Well, that's quick for them
Yeah.
to delay. Normally they never do anything ever.
It's, it
And
was,
they don't have any money ever to do anything either.
so councillor Young, it was quite long and involved because it was determined that the original lease for the courthouse was 1973. It was not terribly conducive to being areas being sublet. So, and we entered into a new lease, but it took several months to get the new lease through. And in the meantime, we lost. Having said that, I did write to the Minister for Veteran Affairs and let him know that the outcome was not council's.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, I do appreciate that, because we often get blamed for things that are not this council's
In our
fault.
control, in our control,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask a question, if I may,
Yes.
of the director. I note that there is inoculation, immunisation system going. Does the council have any inoculation or immunisation system for residents? I ask that question because the median age of the residents in this municipality happen to be probably the oldest in the country. And as you get older, to keep things going, so you don't have to use that portal that Director Porsche was writing about. You like to be inoculated against the things that you could catch. And I did catch very nasty bout of food poisoning in Hobart on Sunday or Monday, and I've only just recovered. And the last time I had one of those was from an institution around here.
Councillor Young,
And I
could
do like inoculations. Do you have any?
Through you, Mayor, no, we don't offer, the only immunisation program we offer is the school. However, there are vaccines available for free for over 65 and alike, and through the childhood immunisation program as well, and they're available at the GP clinics, and some can be accessed through pharmacies and alike as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Churchill.
Yes, through you, Mayor, to the Director, if I may. Just under building and plumbing, there's in the first paragraph, there's mention there that staff have been dealing with a number of complex compliance matters, and these have required the engagement of private building surveyors and have resulted in building notices and orders. My question is, without being specific to any particular one of these, could you give me an example of the type of issues that are being dealt with there, please?
Through you, Mayor. So, yes, essentially some of the complex matters, particularly around the relatively easy ones are things when someone's purchased a property and there might have been a small extension added on, and we issue a notice, someone engages a building surveyor and they rectify the issue. Some of the more complex ones are people could be building a house, for instance, with no approvals and are refusing or you know, essentially unwilling to get it rectified. So we have to follow a proper compliance process. Other matters also include things like, you know, a change of use into something else that requires, you know, additional building requirements where there's an immediate threat to the life or well-being of people. So we need to action those quite quickly.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
Just quickly, two quick questions. With the vaccinations, are they opt-outable or are they compulsory? And any movement on Spencer Street, it says it's low here, but has somebody turned up the checkbook miraculously?
Mr. Warburton.
True. Through you, Mayor. So the school immunisation programs, consent forms are sent to parents.
Yep.
It's up to the parents if they consent. There are some rules and requirements around, particularly those that receive Centrelink benefits and the like, and
Yep.
that can influence that. But council, they're not mandatory
Yep.
to do that. In Spencer Street, so yeah, effectively We haven't, there's not a lot of interest at the moment, so the market's been quite slow. So we'll be sort of reviewing our strategy with the real estate agent in the coming weeks, to see if we can drum up a bit more interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Woodward?
Through there.
Councillor
Very
Gregson, have
quickly.
you asked? Councillor Gregson, you've already spoken.
Yes, I know, but I was cut off by Councillor Young.
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear that, Councillor.
Sorry, Councillor Gregson then.
With regard to it's on page 26, the customer request module, the system's going in place. Could you, through the Deputy Mayor or Mr. Woodward, expand on that, what that CRM system will be? And it's supposed to be operational by October. So could someone expand on that, please, for the benefit of people here and people listening?
Through you, Mayor. So what this program entails is whenever a customer rings up to make a request, and the request might be to provide a new PIN, or it might be that there is an odour coming from a nearby activity and it's causing someone concern, they can log that system online, so they can actually visit our website to log it. They can also do it any other way, by writing in, by calling council and the like, and we can put it into the system. It also has the capability to then keep the customer updated by text messages or emails to say that we're progressing the complaint or the request. And it allows council to report on all matters coming into council to make sure that we're meeting our customer service charter timeframes and the like. And it just creates a much easier system for our staff to use and to keep track of any requests that come in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Deputy Mayor Simon?
Just further to that, through you, Madam Mayor, to our Director, just for everyone's information, roughly how many requests a day? What's our average? Just to understand the amount, it's quite high, I know.
Through you, Mayor, I don't have the data in front of me, but I understand in Director, Acting General Manager Porch, his department, you can see there that for July, for instance, or August, received complaints were around about 40, 45, so that's just for one department. Adding another one on, you'd be pushing towards 100 per month. Yeah.
A lot of information to deal with.
That's a lot of information. Yep.
Thank you. There's nothing further. I will put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Agenda 8 is the officers' reports requiring a decision. 8.1 is the audio-visual recording of the confidential and closed council meetings. There is a recommendation on page 29. Councillor Woods.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll move that council resolves to amend the council meeting audio-visual recording and live streaming policy to accommodate the recording of closed session meeting at workshops, the policy and workshops, and workshops of policy. I'll start again. The council resolves to amend the council meetings audio-visual recording and live stream policy to accommodate the recording of closed session meetings and workshops of policy amendments to provide a date for commencement and the controls for the management of the recordings.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gregson. Councillor Woods, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I will reserve, thank you, Mayor.
Reserve. Thank you. Speaker for the motion? Speaker against? Comment? Councillor Young?
Madam Mayor, this has caused me some concern. There are events that occur in closed meeting that we don't want disclosed, often for a very good reason. Sometimes because this council does not have immunity from defamation claims. We have to consider certain behaviour of individuals in determining what course a particular set of events ought to take. And we have to consider what councillors have to say. If this motion is passed, it will mean that we will have to rely on our recording system and keeping records in this council in the past have been abysmal, both written records and, one would assume, computer style records. Some of us have access to records through the councillor intranet, I think it's called. That's a private system. But there have been a number of leaks out from confidential meetings, not only motions, but leaks about what councillors have said. Now, I've only been on council a short time, about 4 years, and every councillor that I've seen during that short time has the best interests of this community at heart. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case in other councils. But once this motion is passed, the confidentiality of closed session confidential meetings won't be kept, either because of our mess up or because of probably unintentional leaks. Now, I'd like to be able to speak frankly about a couple of things, and in closed session, we've been able to. But I won't feel free to do so if this motion is passed. Because, and I do know of cases where one mayor was sued by a resident in that municipality, sued for defamation. And the insurance cover that the mayor had through the council's insurance policy was not great. She was entitled to see a lawyer for one meeting. And lawyers are very good at making a meeting last, and they can give some wonderful advice. But when you're sued for defamation, quite often it goes on and on and beyond, as we've seen with the Bruce Lerman issue and that's hit the national headlines. If I can't speak frankly, I'll either won't speak at all or vote against every proposal. And I don't want to do that because this council works quite well. I don't want this to stop it working. I could probably defend myself in a defamation claim, but I wouldn't want to. It's over 10 years since I've stopped practicing law. And sometimes writs for defamation are issued just to cause agony. But if the records are subpoenaed, even though they're confidential, they get to a court and they can be used against a councillor, and I wouldn't want that. And for that reason alone, and because of human frailty inside council, I'll vote against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Deputy Mayor Simons, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this motion today. I think it's actually a pretty poor motion. It strikes me as policy on the run. It's a big change to a policy that in effect we've only had 4 days of an agenda to review. To me, that's not good practice. It doesn't give us time to consider the consequences. in the short time I have had to consider it, a number of questions arise for me, and that's around how you store your recordings, who has access to the recordings, when and why they have access, what security measures are in place, and they're just quickly come to mind. I'm fortunate enough to sit on another board where we have a very highly regarded legal advisor, and this actual question came up on that board recently, and the response from the legal advisor was very forceful and along the lines of what Councillor Young was saying. That they were saying that it is not good practice. It does stifle debate. Minutes are what are there for that reason of recording what's been said and what's been agreed upon by the board members. They also went on to say that it's often used in a vexatious way to discredit other board members or to discredit officers' advice. And they seem to have had a lot of experience in this space. So it reinforces my thoughts on this motion. I'm sure there's other things we haven't even considered, but to me, it's not good practice to create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. I don't see it as a problem at the moment. I find the minutes we have and have received from our confidential minutes to be concise and abridged version of what was said and accurate. I suspect in due course the policy will be reviewed and we can speak of changes and what might come of it in due course, but I don't agree with doing this on the back of an agenda.
Councillor Churchill?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have serious concerns about some things that are being implied here around the confidentiality, the whole confidentiality issue. And in particular, I take umbrage at the suggestion that council's records might be penetrable enough that that sort of information would come out of there. I don't believe that. I believe that when I first came on council 6 years ago, I would agree with Councillor Young that the records weren't well kept, and history has shown that that needed a lot of work, which has been done in my view. And I would have confidence in our record keeping now, and the same would apply to those video recordings. I would have absolute faith that they would be cared for and cared for properly and disposed of within the required time, whatever that may turn out to be. Normally it's 6 months, I think it is, but it depends on what we arrive at. I think to say that recording a meeting is a way of being opaque rather than transparent is really taking a questionable line. I can't quite get my head around how that could be anything but better governance in this situation we're specifically talking about now. And it certainly would be a big help to the staff that are required to keep the minutes and to create the minutes of a closed meeting. You'll see that our open meetings are they are also recorded in a written form, but the audio-visual information is often used in the preparation of those minutes, and I believe rightly so and properly so. Having the audio and or visual ability to record those meetings is going to give a more accurate and a more clearly definable outcome of those meetings. And we are seeing situations currently where this sort of activity is required. We are seeing cases where I believe that in confidential meetings that the processes have not been adequate and there are some questionable things happening. I will definitely support this motion, but I also would have liked to have added to that motion an amendment that not only is the audio-visual recording undertaken in confidential meetings, but that it be as of today, immediately. That is the urgency with which I believe it is required. And I do have a foreshadowed motion if this motion were to fail.
Point of order, Madam Chairman, Madam Mayor. If this motion is passed, it operates now, not next week. So I don't know whether the extra.
Can you just clarify that, please?
Yes, I'd like some clarification because I'm a little bit stunned by your allegations.
My allegations, or
No, yours, Councillor Churchill, in relation to the way that.
do you have some questions around it that you'd like to ask me?
Not in an open meeting, not in an
Well,
open meeting.
Well, can I just raise the point of order?
Yes, you
I'd
have,
like you to roll on that, but as I understand it, once a motion is passed,
yes,
it operates. It doesn't operate next week unless it says next week, it operates immediately. So if it was passed, we would have to record.
if the motion is passed, you're suggesting, Councillor, yes?
that's not correct. That's what I was asking you to clarify by way of what's written in the motion, if I may.
Yeah, if I may, Councillor McCrenny first, Council resolves to amend the policy to accommodate the recording of closed session and workshops, the policy amendments to provide a date for commencement. So if this motion was passed today, it wouldn't allow for the recording as from today, as I read it, because it's saying that we will workshop the policy to provide the date and the controls for the management of recordings.
Correct.
So I don't think it applies from today,
I stand by your rule,
if it's passed.
Madam Mayor.
It's only my interpretation of the motion, Councillor Young. So,
No, I stand by your rule. I'm not going to query it.
right. Councillor Churchill, have you anything further to add?
No, not at this point, thank you,
No,
Mayor,
thank
unless you have some questions for me, which I would gladly answer.
No, only I was just a little bit concerned about the comment about the way, and I think you were referring to the last
I was.
session. And I recall a conversation that you and I had after that meeting, where I told you that I did not handle that meeting very well as the chair of it. That's all I was saying.
Thank you for that. I'll take that as an apology for your performance. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor McQueenie, then Councillor Gregson. Councillor McQueenie?
Yeah. Essentially, confidential meetings happen for a specific set of purposes.
Yes.
They're not, and they are named in legislation and regulation. So they're not there as an opportunity to relax the requirements of a meeting. So the idea that it doesn't allow freedom to say what one would want to say is utterly negated by the fact that we are still in a meeting. It's just that the public isn't observing us. So the idea that it can hamper debate is a false claim. We are meant to be behaving as if we're in a meeting. We in this council have confidential records for all sorts of things. We have staffing confidential records. We have confidential records about different submissions. We have confidential records about commercial in practice, commercial in confidence things. What seems to be suggested here is that we won't hold ourselves up to the same sort of record as we expect employers, staff, contractors and the like to do. And again, I just don't think that's defensible. I too have been on a whole range of boards, private, public, not-for-profit, etc. And this is common practice, at least for the period until the minutes are agreed or endorsed. Because as the late Queen said, recollections do vary and clearly have varied around things that matter. So the idea that we shouldn't actually accept a level of recording that can be used to at least establish a correct, true and accurate record of minutes, I don't know on what basis we can hold our, our faces up in the community to suggest that we shouldn't be subject to at least that form of rigour, which also helps staff to develop the minutes. I will be absolutely supporting that this should happen as good basic governance practice. The idea that it will be held forever, I think is, even in the legislation, it talks about 6 months. So really, we're not going to hold ourselves up to the same as other people who are actually in our organisation. I just think the idea that there must be some sort of secret agenda in meetings is quite astounding.
Councillor Gregson?
Right, I'll start off with a question and then a comment. How many other councils of the 29 throughout the state, or 28 in this case, have this system of recording audio?
I don't know the answer to that, Councillor Gregson. I am aware that our neighbouring council to the south, Sorell, do have a policy around audio recording. They have quite a strict around audio recording of closed sessions. Because I think the important thing to be remembered here is that under the Act, Section 33 of the Act, it only deals with audio recording of a public meeting. It does not deal with closed session meetings. They are determined under 33(4), where a council may determine any other procedures relating to the audio recording of meetings be considered appropriate. So, and the 6 months applies to the open session. Sorell's policy is that their audio, and it's quite a good one, their audio recording of a closed session is only retained until the minutes are confirmed at the next meeting. But it has to be remembered that the minutes, any minutes that are produced for a council are not Hansard minutes. They are not verbatim. And so our minutes are done in accordance with the template for minutes for local government.
And in this case, what's being proposed here, will it be audio visual or just audio?
That is for council to determine, Councillor Gregson.
And also a decision will be made. I think you're referring to Sorell, is once the recordings are done and the minutes, as you say, are not Hansard style minutes, once that is invoked, then the recordings will be what?
It is, as I understand it. So the maximum time that it would be kept would be 1 month until the minutes of the closed session are approved at the next meeting, as I understand it.
Yes, that's fine. And any, what would you say, illegal activity as far as gaining access to those recordings could not be admitted into a court of law.
I'm sorry?
If say for instance the recordings, someone basically got access to that recording and tried to use it against someone, that will not be considered as evidence of court of law. It would not be admissible. So,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Councillor Gregson, could you repeat it again, please?
I'm just saying that with the recordings, if it was illegally accessed, that evidence could not be admitted to a court of law because it's.
Is that a statement or a question?
Oh, it could be both. Councillor Young, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
Councillor Gregson, in this forum, we can't take legal advice, which is what I think you're giving us.
I know, I'm just raising the question.
From, thank you. Okay,
And just also, I've gee, this is because there is the retort of the reduction in free and vigorous debate and everything like that. But just this is from a side. This is I can remember I'm that old enough that when the a well-known policeman proposed to have audio visual of police interviews. That was hotly opposed by the Police Association because their excuse is, don't you trust us? But
Of course
now,
we don't.
yeah, but now that
Councillor Gregson, I'm sorry.
yeah, but now the procedure did,
I
everyone
will-
agrees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
I'd just like to say through you, Mayor, that I'm pleased that Councillor Churchill has such a huge confidence in the storage of records. I'm sure that Telstra and the banks and Medicare and everyone else had equally as much faith in their security systems, which were all shown to be completely useless. I think, look at the distrust we had in the community here with the medical records and the widespread concern of the residents. Anybody can hack our medical records, whether they could, no, to my understanding they couldn't, but the wide perception was they could. And it's a constant thing you got in the ear from everyone. So I think it builds up another level of potential distrust if things are leaked. Well, does that come out of the council? Who's it come from? Where's it come from? It could have come from the person putting the thing up themselves. But council will the one will be blamed, as they always are. I think that as a council, we work well enough now. We've had a pretty, by what I hear from all councillors, compared to previous years, we've had a very amicable on the main and a good working relationship between all of us. And I think it's something to me which goes away towards stifling debate. To me, it breaks some of the mutual respect and trust. And I, very much like Councillor Young, would be more inclined to certainly not give a frank and full opinion. Before I joined council, I thought that closed sessions were a complete waste of time. And I thought workshops were a complete waste of time. And I had no idea. On joining council, I realised how vital they both are, because you can have a full, frank and discussion. Because when this thing's running, we try to put on a more united and professional, in the probably wrong word, but a united front. Whereas when we're in a workshop or a closed meeting, you can have a more open and frank discussion. And all the ones we've had to date, except for one, have been fine. And so I think, why throw the baby out with the bathwater? So that's my comment.
Now, councillors, everybody has spoken once, which is part of the meeting procedures. Before I give Councillor Woods the opportunity to close debate, I would like to say some things, please. Starting with, I think we need to recognise, as I said earlier to Councillor Gregson, that section 33 of the Act only relates to the recording of open session meetings, open agendas. Section 338 and 339 of the Act applies very much to closed sessions. That is the disclosure of information. I am in favour of reviewing the policy because it still consists of, it still has the COVID procedures in there for the recording of meetings, and they were removed, or they should have been removed some time ago. But I'm not in favour of resolving to amend the policy in this meeting without the policy being seriously considered at a workshop, because there needs to be some really serious guidelines in the policy around the audio recording and how we are going to do that, how we are going to keep that information secure. So councillor Woods, on that note, I would give you the opportunity to close debate.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all councillors for your input in that. I have listened intently to everyone's concerns and statements, and whilst I agree with pretty much everybody on what has been said, I have big concerns with regards to this motion, and I don't normally do this, but that's my paper where I've been scribbling on it. Because, and I don't normally do that, but that's how concerned I am about this. This motion says that council resolves to amend the council meeting, audio visual recording and live streaming policies to accommodate the recording of closed session meetings and workshops, the policy amendments to provide a date for commencement of the controls of the management of records. Right, so what is the amendment? Workshopping this after the fact, like, so we're going to vote for this today, and then we're going to workshop it. I think it should be the other way around. I'm all in favour of looking at this. How does, and what goes into this policy? What's going into this policy? And all of those sorts of things that we would normally, in normal practice of this council, of reviewing policies, is done and then brought to council. Well, this one's complete opposite. So I've got no idea of what is actually going into the new policy. That being said, I will not support it, but I will support a workshop with regards to this, and then bring it back at a later date so it can be done properly. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Woods. You've closed debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those in favour of the motion? Those against the motion? Councillor Edwards, councillor Young, councillor Woods, Deputy Mayor Simons, Mayor Arnold.
Abstentions are a vote against, are they
I'm
not?
sorry.
I'll abstain.
So abstentions are effectively voting against the motion.
I'd like to have a workshop at anyway.
That's what the motion will achieve, councillor Gregson. So can I haven't got voting of everybody yet. I only have the votes of those against. The other councillors have not indicated whether they are abstaining or voting for the motion.
And there is no other option because I don't agree with the way the motion's worded either. But, so I would rather vote for basic public accountability and good governance and transparency. So I guess.
So can I start again? Those in favour of the motion. That is that council resolves to amend the council meeting and audio visual recording. Councillor McCready and councillor Churchill. Thank you. Those against? Councillor Edwards, councillor Young, councillor Woods, Deputy Mayor Simons and councillor Arnold.
I will abstain.
Councillor Gregson is abstaining.
Do you declare the motion lost?
I have declared the motion lost.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to put an alternate motion.
No,
Consequent
I'm
upon
sorry,
this.
you can't,
I did ask for the foreshadowing motion.
but you didn't put it at the time, councillor.
You didn't ask me for it. I asked to put it, and you didn't authorise me to put it
Oh,
at that time.
I'm sorry.
I would move a foreshadowed motion, but move the motion, I suspect, councillor.
So councillor Churchill, given that you did mention a foreshadowed motion at the time, and I missed what the point was, I'm sorry. I will allow.
So allowed?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. The foreshadowed motion is that council resolve to amend the council meetings, audio visual recording and live streaming policy to accommodate the recording of closed session meetings. 2, commences audio visual recording of closed session confidential meetings of council immediately. 3, proceeds to develop amendments to the audio-visual recording and live streaming policy by the 22nd of October 2024, retrospective to and inclusive of the meeting of the 24th of September 2024.
Have you given that to the officers? Could you give that to the officers so they can see things? Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Cody. So Councillor Young, if I may, I have a motion and I have a seconder. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I do wish to speak to the motion, Mayor. This is about actually getting on record what I believe to be proper process under these circumstances. We're faced with a situation where we currently need some transparency. We need to be able to record in a way that can be that minutes can be taken from that recording. I don't mind whether it's audio, visual or both. I really don't care. But we do need some structure like that. We need something to be able to assist the staff, because the meeting that I'm referring to, there is questions about whether it should have in fact been in a closed meeting for a start. It could well have been in an open meeting. I'm quite happy to discuss that later in the closed session, and I'll explain why. So that it's really marginal. And I cannot for the life of me understand why we would not be moving to something that is clearly better. There are a lot of councils now that are, as to Councillor Gregson's earlier question, that are doing recordings of the closed sessions. And I believe LGAT itself does recordings of its closed meetings. So I think it's an acceptable and ultimately a far better governance process that we should be looking at in the future. And the purpose of me bringing this, I'm fully aware that the amendment will be lost, that the foreshadowed motion will be lost. I've put it there to put it on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Woods, then Councillor Young.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. I won't support that motion. This isn't the forum to be making that change. This isn't the time to be making such a monumental change to our policy where we haven't had time to consider the ramifications of it. I don't agree with you that it's clearly better. We've had minutes from our confidential meetings which are pretty concise and clear in my mind since I've been on council. And we still haven't addressed any of the issues that come from doing this. One of the ways that minutes are transcribed is through AI, and we know that that doesn't always record it accurately. That means then we've got a situation where we have to have and this is just the logistics of how this might work, we've got a situation where we've got an executive officer that's got to wade through a transcript against and compare it against an AI transcript and make sure that works out. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think there's times that we haven't had a chance here to discuss about what happens with commercial in confidence situations that get recorded. The common practice and the common knowledge around meetings in confidence are that the minutes suffice, and that everyone I've spoken to about this says it will stifle debate. Now, you might like to think it won't, but I suspect it will, and that seems to be what the majority of councillors are saying around this table. And perhaps we need a chance to investigate that and discuss that. But again, I'll come back to the fact that this isn't the forum to be making that change.
Councillor Woods?
No, you're right, I'm not ready to just, sorry.
Right, Councillor Young?
Madam Mayor, I would support a motion to review the question of recording, because there are times when not all minutes are accurate. We're all human, and there might be some merit in it. And I'd be happy to review it, bearing in mind the comments I've previously made. The issues of defamation are the main things. And I know from experience that if there's something on the television that's defamatory, you can get an order to have the documents preserved and produced to a court straight away. You could do the same here. And I think we do need to look at it because we don't want inaccurate meetings, because our late Queen was right. And I know my memory's perfect, but it's not always as perfect as it should be. Thank you.
If I may, Councillor McQueen, I'll come to you in a sec. Guess my comment around this is that there's been comments made about the minutes that are produced. But they're never challenged. But in all the years I've been on council, the minutes have hardly ever been challenged in a meeting. So I find that a little bit perplexing. Councillor Woods, are you ready?
No,
No?
sorry.
Councillor McQueen?
I've got a quick question for clarification and then my
Yes.
comment. I'd just like through you, Mayor, to understand if our minutes are produced by AI.
No, I don't believe they are.
Right, so those
They're-
comments are made
they're
about
produced.
AI are
They are produced by our executive officer and in the meeting at the time.
no AI. Good
Not
to,
that I'm aware
good
of.
to clarify.
Not that I'm
And
aware
I
of.
wasn't insinuating that, but that's how a lot of companies record the minutes when they're verbalised. They're transcribed by AI.
Yes, I appreciate that you made a comment about minutes being used with AI. So just for clarity for the community, it's good to know that that doesn't happen here ever. I fully support the motion. I confirm too that I believe there's an urgent need for these. The fact that certain members may feel comfortable around how things are happening at the moment and how we're all getting on is very much an individual perspective. I've raised in the past that I've had governance concerns. I've made a public statement about that in April at the meeting. And for those reasons, for good governance, to not hold ourselves open to ensuring that we get an accurate record of discussions. I don't know how the community could feel that that is anything other than.
Could I just clarify something? Is the intention of the recording of the closed session to record more than the outcomes, which is all that we have to do?
It's about ensuring a true and accurate record of confidential meetings, in my mind. And can't speak for others.
That's in my mind, if it's me you're referring to, it's exactly the same as it would be used for the open sessions,
But I come back to the,
except that it is not, doesn't go on YouTube.
I come back to the point though that until this point, our minutes have never been questioned. And so that's where I'm finding a little bit of confusion around this and why it's all of a sudden become quite urgent. Councillor Woods, do you?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Is Councillor McQueen finished?
I believe so.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mayor. I've been on council for a while and never has this been brought. Why, Councillor McQueen, why are you smoking when I was
I'm
speaking?
not. I couldn't leave myself
I'm
up.
sorry.
That's enough. Councillor.
I'm listening.
No,
You
no,
go
no,
on.
no.
I'm listening.
I've been very respectful and listened to everybody around this table without doing that.
I'm
Now, this
sorry
is
if
a
I-
very, very contentious, clearly contentious situation or a discussion. What I want to try and understand for myself is, one, why the urgency of doing this straight away, and two, why? Because in all the years that I've been here, like you said, Mayor, that we as councillors have never really challenged our minutes. And now all of a sudden there's an issue with our minutes, and I don't understand. I really truly don't understand it at all. What I would like to see done is that we have this open and frank discussion in a workshop and nut it out, and not do this in a rushed manner. It's a very important thing, and I totally agree. That they probably should be that should happen. But let's do it properly. Let's do it by workshop, frank discussion, and let's just do it properly. Thank you.
Any other comments, Councillor Gregson?
Yeah, through the mayor. I've just with this. I'd really like for this item to be workshopped, and also I would also like during that workshop to have a comparison for what councils are using this system of recording, like Sorrel, how they're doing it, other ones, so you can compare those councils how they're actually doing it. With recording in private sessions, yes, it may reduce the free and vigorous debate and everything like that, but also it's quite good practice if there is in the future a controversy between what is said and the minutes, that can be referred to straight away and basically nut it out. And I think 6 months is far too long. Once the recording is and the minutes are done, the recording goes for security purposes. But I think it's essential that we compare and contrast other councils and what they're doing with regard to this. And the future workshop would be great.
Anything further? Put the motion on.
No.
Oh, sorry. Yes, would you like to close debate?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. It's not just the minutes that are of concern to me. It's far greater than that. It's issues of governance that have occurred in meetings recently that we need to look at. If you're looking puzzled, Mayor, I can point that out now if you wish.
Perhaps it's a conversation that we should have when the closed session minutes are dealt with in the next session.
Perhaps it is, yes, thank you. And I'd just like to point out that while we're struggling here about when we form policy, I've been on council for 6 years. When I came on council, there was no policy around audio visual governance of meetings at that time at all when I came on. The first policy was not drawn up until 2020. So, we've operated on this council in the past without completed policies, with occasionally and often there are policies that are already reached their review date, and that's inevitable, that's going to happen, and that's not a comment about anything, but the fact that the policy hasn't driven what we've done in the past. And while I believe that a policy is really necessary around this, I think there's a hell of a lot of common sense that should come into play here too. So it's I believe we've reached the point where it is not only necessary, that it is essential that we have recording of these meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Chisholm, I know that you have closed debate, but could I just draw your attention to the fact that we, as a council in April 2017, resolved to audio-visual record meetings and live stream them. That was done under a motion in 2017.
Right. Was there policy around that though?
I don't recall that, Councillor. I'm sorry.
On our records, on council's records, there's no indication that there was a policy before 2020.
You may well be right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Churchill and Councillor McQueenie. Those against? Councillor Edwards, Councillor Young, Councillor Woods, Deputy Mayor Simons, Mayor Arnold, and I take it Councillor Gregson, you are abstaining. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on. Agenda item 8.2 is a request of approval for buildings within the covenant area 284 Ribbon Road, Auckland. there is a recommendation on page 35. Councillor Edwards?
Recommend that the council approve the building shown in the submitted plans to be located in the covenanted area identified in the schedule of easements in SP 169414 on 284 Revan Road, Springby.
Seconder? Councillor Woods, thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Please.
Thank you. Any speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Churchill?
Just a comment or a question around the motion, something that was brought to me with these new report that we have is that on lot 284B that we're shown here, there has already been it's described as a dwelling built within the covenanted area in the past. So I can't see why we've been through this whole process to now where that covenant has probably been breached previously, or have I missed something?
Mr. Bonner?
I'm
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Mr. Bonner, but are you able to offer any solutions for Councillor Churchill?
Through you there, a building has been approved in the covenanted area. But that's not the, I suppose that's not the matter that's being discussed today.
Sure.
This is a new application that's been made, and I suppose that's the relevance of today, is this new application.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner.
Thank you, Councillor Young.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. The building that was approved was approved under the Land Use and Planning Approvals Act, almost certainly. This covenant that we're seeking to give our consent to a building is not under the Land Use and Planning Approvals Act, but is under the general law of the land dealing with covenants on titles, which is actually a separate thing.
So
Difficult it is to
your point
understand.
of order is what,
My
Councillor?
point of order is that we're dealing with a new, different style of approval.
So can I move on to more questions, Ben?
Yes.
Because I agree with you. Councillor Gregson?
On page 34 under statutory implications, I'll just read this out. However, as the applicant is not proposing to amend the sealed plan, the provisions of section 103 do not apply to the current request. However, if my memory is correct, the applicant did initially apply to have that covenant removed.
Did initially apply to have the covenant removed. I believe that is accurate, Mr. Bonner.
That's, through you, Mayor, yes, that's correct, but that's not what is being proposed now.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Different.
I just
Thank
thought I'd put
you.
it on public record.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor McCready?
Thanks, Mayor, through you to planning. Can I just, in understanding how the scheme works, because when we considered,
Madam Mayor, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
can I just get an understanding going forward? Because when we first considered this, it was in the context of a subdivision. A proposed one was in the paper, proposed future was, and that we were in coming to the previous decision, the notion that neighbouring properties, etc., would be able to, if there was a future subdivision application, then they would go through the normal process, right? That happens with consultation for subdivision arrangements. So can I guess, just understand that still stands if there are subdivision applications, the fact that this has been approved has no relevance. I'm saying that because that's how I see it. Is that right?
Mr. Bonner? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I can't understand what Councillor McCready said.
No,
Councillor Young, would you please allow Mr. Bonner to respond, and he might need some clarification.
Through you, Mayor, I'll just clarify that there was never a subdivision proposed. The previous application the original was to amend the sealed plan by allow buildings within the covenanted area, which has gone by the wayside. This is purely a dwelling to be located on the subject lot within the covenanted area.
Yeah.
If we receive an application for a subdivision in the future, it'll be advertised as most subdivisions are advertised. My understanding is this one will probably be required to be advertised because the access doesn't meet the acceptable solutions for the access there, and it would be assessed under the performance criteria.
Thank you very much, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? The motion, all those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Agenda item 8.3 is a request for event support for the Festival of Small Halls in Swansea. There is a recommendation on page 39. Councillor Woods?
The council approves $1,000 from the events budget for the council-run event, Small Halls, to keep ticket prices affordable and cover any venue cost shortfall.
Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Woods, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Young?
Madam Mayor, just looking at the motion itself, if it doesn't keep the ticket prices affordable to everyone and doesn't cover the shortfall, what happens then?
George?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I maybe probably just have a little check there through the report to get a sense of what is going on there, whether that would mean that council provides some more.
I'm not against it, I'm just a curious motion.
It is noted in here that council will be required to cover the difference by proactively contributing $1,000. Council can get a more affordable, set a more affordable ticket price.
It's worthy.
Absolutely worthy, Councillor Young. I
don't dispute the worthiness.
I have attended them in
It's
the
just
past and they are absolutely brilliant and relevant.
So there's light shining on it.
Pardon?
Doesn't matter.
Councillor Gregson?
This Small Halls is a concept of the Woodfordia, which is an offshoot of the Woodford Stone Festival. It goes throughout the country. It's not only specific to Tasmania, but throughout the country, and it brings in a lot of really, international music as well as Australian music, and it sets the possibility of a local artist. May I suggest that one local artist to be considered for the Ange Box also, and I will be supporting this, I think, the project.
That will be entirely up to the organisers, Councillor Gregson.
Just put it on public.
Councillor Churchill?
I just want to say that I think the idea, if I've got it straight, if there is anything left that has to be filled in between the actual amount that they raise and the 3,500 required, that I believe that falls back to council to pay that. Is that correct? Have I got that right?
On page 38, I think
that's what's implied in there. That's implied in there. So I think that if this grant sort of does two things. It makes it more inclusive for the community to attend, but it also might be actually assisting us in backing the odds of getting enough people to fill it so that we don't have to actually pay the extra. So I can see this as a win-win for council.
My experience
You
with
mean
this,
pay for it anyway?
my experience with this event in the past is it has not been difficult to sell all the tickets. It's been a very popular
I don't
event.
quite understand, Madam Mayor, what it is.
Can I put the motion? All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 8.4 is a small grant application from the Bicheno Men's Shed. It's the age-old insurance problem. Deputy Mayor Simons.
I'd like to move that the council approve the application for the community small grant funding of $890.91 to Bicheno Men's Shed Incorporated to help cover the group's insurance costs, enabling them to continue their operations.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Steve?
Just really briefly that it's a great organisation in Bicheno. It doesn't have a lot of members, but
they punch out a lot of work and they do all the volunteer work that people need doing, like cutting out penguins and fixing things that people bring in. So it really is a good thing to be doing.
Any other
Deserves
comments?
support.
Councillor Gregson?
$890.91. I'd just like to congratulate the Missionaries Men's Club for not applying for $1,000. They're really targeting, the cost of the insurance or contributing to the insurance. Plus, it caters for men's, caters for men's and women's. It's a men's and women's shed. So why is it called just the Missionary Men's Shed when it should be called the Missionary
Point
Men's
of
and
order.
Women's Shed?
Councillor Young, sorry.
Point of order.
What is the point, what is your point
The
of
point
order?
is, it is the men's shed, whatever its name is. Now is not the time to reconstitute the people that comprise men's shed, whether they be a they, an LBQXYZ or
Point
anyone.
of order, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Please.
Councillor Young, thank
I'm not
you.
going to kick you under the table, but stop.
Councillor Young, I will take your point of order, but
Thank you.
by responding to Councillor Gregson. Councillor Gregson, it is called the Fisherman Men's Shed because I believe they are part of what is known as the Men's Shed Association of Tasmania. Councillor Woods, did you wish to speak?
No.
No.
She just wanted to hit me.
If there is nothing further, I'll put the motion. Did you want to put anything? No, sorry. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor McQueenie has declared an interest in the Tribunal Theatre and is leaving the chamber. There is a recommendation on page 45. Councillor Young.
I move council approve the community small grant application from the Tribunal Tivoli Theatre of $1,000 as a contribution towards operational costs of monthly film screening.
Councillor Woods, seconded. Thank you. Councillor Young, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I think it's a commendable event, and I've been to one. The biggest difficulty is I don't know what's being shown next, and I don't know where to find out.
It's, as was said about the Festival of Small Falls, it is a community event that's very well attended, I believe. Councillor Gregson?
Just a clarification. I assume that the films are shown at the Tribunal Town Hall, is that
They are.
correct? And the admission fee of $5. Do you have to be an actual member and
I
pay
don't
$10? It says here that.
I don't believe so, Councillor. I
you
think
do.
it's open to the
Okay,
public.
okay. And also, and there's a licensing liquor permit, $462.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's just here on page 43. It's got here the costings, and it's got licensing. Liquor permit costs $462.80. Is the Tivoli highly dependent on the sales for the commercial activity?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
I didn't want to develop it into a temperance society, but
Right.
I just thought, anyway, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Mr. Bonner, would you let Mr. Councillor McQueen know to return?
I'll
Thank you.
show you part of the return.
Councillor McQueen, thank you for your declaration. I'm pleased to inform you that council has unanimously agreed to the recommendation.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8.6 is the community small grant for East Coast Anglican Church. East Coast Anglican, there is a recommendation on page 48. Councillor Young,
I move that council approve the community small grant application from the East Coast Anglican of $1,000 as a contribution to support the Kids Club and Youth Group program.
is there a seconder? Councillor McSweeney, thank you. Councillor Young, do you wish to speak to it?
I'll do briefly.
I've read the documentation in support of the application. I've only met the Anglican once. He's a man of the world, an ex-military man, doing good things in an area where the community needs it, and every bit of assistance he needs, I think personally, we ought to give.
Any other speakers? Councillor McQueen, do you wish to speak? No,
thank you.
sorry. Councillor Gregson, then Councillor Woods.
Right. I've just, this so-called kids club, for want of a better word, this will be at Tribunna, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. And I just had a look at the Anglican Church takes in Swansea, sometimes Bicheno, Woodsdale, and Tribunna, but this will be based basically because of the high school. And the primary
Basically,
school.
because this is where
Is that
East Coast
correct?
Anglican is actually situated. The church and the pastor live here in Tribunna.
That's right.
Councillor Woods?
I have been looking, but I just don't seem to be able to find it. Have we given this group this financial year, or was that last financial year?
I don't believe I saw anything in this report where we have supported them this financial year. We did chat about
Sorry.
this in a workshop, so that might be what you're thinking of, councillor.
Thank you. I knew
Thank
there
you.
was
Is there
something.
any other questions or comments in relation to agenda item 8.6? Nothing further. The only thing that I would like to add is that our communities, right across our communities, from Buckland to Bicheno, basically, we have so a large number of youth who are being supported by some amazing volunteers, and I think it really is important for council to support those programs. On that note, I will put the motion of those in favour. Those against, it's carried unanimously. Agenda item 8.7 is a small grant application for funding assistance for a resident competing at state, national or international events. There is a recommendation on page 51. Councillor Edwards.
I move that the council approve the application for community small grant funding of $500 to the Tribunna District School students to participate in the Windward Bound Youth Leadership Challenge.
I'll second.
Seconded, Councillor Young. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the
Yes,
motion?
would I I didn't have a clue who the student was. I happened to bump into her depositing some money she fundraised at the Tribunna School at the post office. She has worked tirelessly, as it turns out, with a bit more investigation. She had to raise $2,750. She's a 15-year-old kid. She's got very close to the top. I think she's about $560 odd short, but she reckons she can get the rest by continuing to fundraise and work. And so I was very impressed with it. I know she works at the Orford IGA and uses that money to go towards this Windward Bound experience, and I think it's very much support her endeavours.
Councillor Young, do you wish to add anything?
I don't wish to say anything other than I support
Any,
what Councillor Edwards has said.
any other questions or comments, Councillor Gregson?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate the Year 9 student for taking the initiative and to go on this leadership program with Windward Bound. He or she, according to Councillor Edwards, will make new friends, open up a big horizons for her. And I know that she's only applying for the $500 and not the maximum of $1,000. So she's really going to be commended for that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. This young lady has been an inspiration in leadership at the school, and so I know the school are supporting her. She's very highly respected at the school by both students and teachers. If there's nothing further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9, there are no notices of motion, there are no petitions at agenda item 10, there are no questions on notice from councillors at agenda item 11. 11.2, There's opportunity for comments and statements. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to acknowledge the sudden and very sad passing of former GSBC worker, employee Adrian O'Leary. I worked with him over many years in various situations within council and always found him to be fantastic and knowledgeable, and he provided our community with many projects and was nothing but commendable. He leaves behind his wife and girls and grandchildren, and I know that they are struggling with his passing, his sudden passing. My thoughts go out to them in this sad time in their lives. He left his stamp behind with all that he did and his team accomplished while he worked here at Glamorgan Spring Bay Council. Ballet Adrian O'Leary.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to support that. I like Adrian O'Leary. And the period that I knew him was only 4 years. He probably is a bit like me, not perfect, but I found him a delight. And I'm sad that he's gone.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to add here that he's probably the reason that I stood for council. He's a very good man and sadly missed.
Thank you, councillors. Any questions? Any other questions or comments? Councillor
I
Gregson.
have some comments. Just wondering, for the Mayor, of course, how is the dementia-friendly Swansea concept progressing? I know that the Dementia Australia having September fully
Councillor
occupied.
Gregson, I can answer the question straight away. I have no idea. I've not been kept informed in relation to it. I'm sorry.
Right, thank you. Refer
I
to,
don't know that the officer, it's something that the officers would know either.
they probably forgot. But I could refer it to.
I'm sorry?
I could refer it to Mrs. Kerr. I'm just wondering, please.
No,
There's no-
no. I don't think the officers are aware of it, and certainly as the mayor, I've not been kept informed in relation to it. I'm sorry.
That's fine. And also, at the last OGM, I did raise the concept of the neighbourhood house at Swansea concept. Have you investigated that or progressed that better? Further at all?
Where we're at with that, Mr. Woodward, we haven't been able to progress that any further at this point, have we?
Through you, Mayor, not at this stage, no.
No, I'd just like to inform council, place it on public record, that I did write to the CEO of Neighbourhood House Tasmania, the network, and I hadn't received a reply, but I did say, I did propose that she may address a workshop, and I would refer her reply to the general manager, and then they may get together to do that, but I haven't had a reply, so I'm just wondering whether the council could follow that up, please, for a workshop. The neighbourhood house concept is state-based.
Councillor Gregson, they would need to approach council.
Yes, that's what I said to them, yes. But,
Thank you.
right, that's fine. And also with the Swansea structure plan and all the other structure plans of Bishno, Wolfton, Trial I assume they're available for public inspection now?
I believe they're on the website, Mr. Woodward, is that right?
Through you, Mayor, yes, they're on our website and we've placed a few Facebook posts up as well.
Thank you. And also, I'd also like to express my congratulations to the people who wrote to the planners and did express their concerns for the preservation of the Swansea Bowls Club in the present location, which the structure plan did consider and then and did involve that at the present location, not to be part of future development. And I'm very much assured that any relocation of the Swansea Oval will be referred back to the council for consideration and not be a fait accompli. And also, just my final one is, would council support the reintroduction of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council photography competition, where we used to have a calendar? So would that be permissible for the next, probably not this year, of course, but next year, Christmas?
Certainly something to raise with the staff, Councillor Gregson separately.
Does Councillor Gregson require my permission?
Councillor McQueenie.
Just one thing, thanks, Mayor. Two people from Spring Beach have talked about whether, given bird season started, if the light associated with the toilet block could actually become a sensor light, not on permanently, in terms of the interruption to birds.
Mr. Porch, I take it by your reaction, you have an answer for that.
Well, only in that it's been passed on and there will be central lights installed.
Oh, great, okay.
Thank you, councillor Flex.
Yeah, I have a statement, question. I've had a few inquiries from people in regarding to the local government reform where we're up to, and especially on the issue of consultation with the ratepayers and neighbouring municipalities with potential reforms over potential amalgamation, sharing of services, whatever else was on the list. I realised it was a major disruption with the state election and Minister Street's then illness and time away from the job. But surely that means that we don't sit on our hands. We need to keep progressing and talking to our neighbours and talking to the government. And I will add as an add-on, in the meantime, I've spoke to the Mayor and to Acting General Manager Peter Forge. And the Mayor, I hope it's okay for me to say, she has sent some letters to Kerry, to Member for Rossa, Kerry Vincent, to bring up in estimates in Parliament to try and divulge some more information to find out what funding will be available and where the process is up to, and that it just hasn't all died a death.
So, councillor, thank you for that. Just for information, just prior to the election being called, the three councils, the three general managers and three mayors were in a meeting in the Director of Local Government's office. The Deputy Mayor was online at the time, and they were discussing the way forward for the voluntary amalgamation of Sorell, Glamorgan, Spring Bay and Breakaday. They had mapped out a plan, but it was very much reliant on getting some funding from the government.
Yep.
And a significant amount of funding. It was, I think, from memory, and the Deputy Mayor might correct me, but I think from memory they were looking for about $1 million. So I think effectively 350,000 for each council area. That was to initiate a local government board to actually look at the three councils, to give us the data to be able to put back to the communities. Then, of course, there was an election called, and then there was a delay with the budget being released until just recently. I know Mr. Porch has some other information, I think, in relation to it, so you might just provide that information now, Mr. Porch. I appreciate it.
Certainly, I mean, there's quite a number of stages in the reform, and they've been outlined on the government website, but the pertinent issues around, for this council, around amalgamation, boundary change, that might be, or shared services, the many different options that are available under the program. The state government has allowed $250,000 in the current year's budget towards a resource which is proposed to assist councils working together to design a preferred model for going forward. From that model, then the government believes will be in a position to be able to identify what actual costs there are in proceeding forward and budgeting then for those funds to be able to facilitate the preferred models that come up from those councils who are in the first phase, and we're one of those.
Could you repeat that again? I didn't hear. Whose preferred model?
In the first stage is for the councils to work together
I heard that bit.
develop a preferred model for going forward.
So that means that people come before this council to decide what we prefer, as well as come before other councils to see what they prefer.
A part of the process is community engagement, significant community engagement, and suggesting things like community ballots. So it's not necessarily in council's hands, but in the community's hands.
So it's not council's preferred policy, it's the residents' preferred policy. I don't quite follow what the words are.
So Councillor Young, if I can just highlight, if I may, Mr. Porter, the thing that I find interesting in this is that the three councils, when they sat in the Director of Local Government's office, suggested that that community ballot, community, whatever you want to call it, consultation, whatever you want to call it, should have been a little bit further down the plan. The council should have been able to get together first and map out what we saw was the information we needed to put to the community. And now the government's gone down this path with this $250,000, which is significantly less than what the director was chasing. So, but we'll continue to try and get some information around it. Councillor McQueen?
So it will stay, I might have missed something, but so it will stay as an approach to community without them having, like, what it would financially mean for them, what it would mean about rates, what it would be. It's just a finger in the air.
That's what it
And
appears.
And quite honestly, Councillor McQueenie, that was the concern of the three mayors at the
Yeah.
time, and one of those mayors is now the member for Crosser. That was the concern of the three mayors at the time,
Yeah.
and to some extent the three general managers, that we as mayors of the council believed that we needed that data to be able to put to the community groups so they could see what the issues were going to be for them. But now this money's come out, so and it seems to be linked to that community consultation without, as you say, the information or the data. So all we can do is continue to work with the Director of Local Government and the Minister for Local Government through the budget and see where we're headed. But thank you, Councillor Edwards, for raising it. I know there are a number of people in the community that are concerned about it.
I also do completely agree with your comment. It's very hard for the ratepayers to make a decision when they've got no data.
No data, yes.
In other words, how much the rates will go up if there's a merger.
But
Councillor Gregson?
I'm just under the opinion that this initiative was by the three councils, because the Tasman said, no, we don't want to have anything to do with it. But there must have been, between Break a Day, all that's been voted through, there must have been an initial agreement to say,
No.
we'll forward this.
There was not.
Councillor Young, please. Councillor Gregson, the situation is that the three councils, we were three of the councils that said we were prepared to listen to an outcome that was going to be better for our ratepayers. The local government board, for whatever better term, ran with that and determined that we were phase one of the voluntary amalgamations. I've always had concerns around how that, if you like, dropped out of the local government review. But we are there because we have always stated that we are prepared to look at the data to ensure that to what people might get a benefit. There may be huge benefits to our community if we are effectively split up, because that is what will happen in any boundary adjustment in this process. But until we get the data that we can put to our community so they can analyse it, we don't know what's happening.
So we're in phase one of what, phase four?
Phase 50 already.
Sorry, do you have any more?
Sorry, I was being facetious. I said phase 50.
Yeah, phase
Is
50,
where
yes, that
I'm
could be
now.
right too. So we will just keep following up on what funding is available and what the Director of Local Government through the Future of Local Government Review and the recommendations will happen for this council. And we'll continue with those discussions.
And we'll be informed, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's Councillor
So-
Gregson, we might have a question asked of us.
So if there's no further comments or statements, I just have one question which I'm going to direct to Mr. Porch in his role as Director of Works and Infrastructure. I've been asked on a couple of occasions about the clearing of the land between the road that goes into the Orford Waste Transfer Station and I think the boundary of Orford Golf Club. And effectively it fronts onto the Tasman Highway. Why it's happened, do we know?
It's land that is owned by council and we've effectively cleared a significant amount of scrubby wattle through there
Yes, yeah,
to just improve the fire management of the area.
thank you. That's I
We'll
was-
add the
I
power
was-
lines too, seemed like a very
And-
sensible thing to
and
do.
the line of sight,
The
yeah,
power lines going over.
yeah.
to
So
clean up
thank
the
you,
power.
that's perfect, thank you. All right, agenda item 12 is the closed session of council. There is a recommendation on page 55. Councillor Woods,
I move that council moves into closed session at 4:05 PM.
Madam Mayor, can we have a short adjournment?
could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Young, I'll put the motion, all those in favour, those against. I will just check that the recording has been terminated.